Welcome to the NerdLore podcast. We talk stories, theories, and lore. Tonight, I'm the only host, Shiny Shoes, and I'm joined by
BigBlueD. How's it going?
And BigBlueD tonight is going to talk to us about Star Wars and some of the stuff about that lore and fandom that he loves. So, BigBlueD, without further ado, take it away.
So, a lot of people, when it comes to Star Wars, you know, they love the Jedi, they love the Ewoks, Chewbacca, whatever. I love the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I've always kind of gravitated towards the villains in things. I think they're a little more complex, a little more layered. And what I like about the Sith is if you really think about it, right? I don't think they're actually evil. The reason for that is the Jedi teach you not to feel anything, right? Like they're against feeling like emotions, rage, sadness, love. It's all kind of forbidden in the Jedi Order. But the Sith are kind of about feeling everything almost like to its peak. So if one order is teaching you not to have any kind of emotion, is that really a good thing? You know? And like the Sith have kind of evolved over the years. It started off, I think they were called the Dark Brotherhood. There was a whole friggin' army of them, right? Like just thousands upon thousands of Sith Lords. And basically what ended up happening was they went to war with the Jedi, and the Jedi just absolutely slapped them around. I mean, they just kicked them from pillar to post. And one of the survivors of the Sith, the Dark Brotherhood, his name was Bane. He became Darth Bane, and what happened was he came to the realization that the Sith became weak. They became weak by infighting and squabbling like with each other. And so from here, he came up with the rule of two: one to hold the power, and one to crave it. There can be only two. So he took an apprentice, and if I'm not mistaken, her actual what do you call it? Her lightsaber thing was actually like a whip.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and to this day, I'm not sure there's been another Sith or even Jedi, for that matter, to have such a weapon. But he's the one who basically sculpted this whole, rule of two thing. And he even at one point, skipping ahead a little bit, but I think it was right after, I'm trying to remember if it was after Revenge of the Sith or before, but Yoda went to basically like the burial ground of the Sith, which Darth Bane was the very last Lord to ever be buried there, whatever, his sarcophagus. And his Force Ghost actually tried to turn Yoda to the dark side.
Oh.
And and Yoda, he was able to resist, but it wasn't like as easy as you might think, until he realized, like, wait a second, this is actually like his holocron or whatever. Like, I can do this,
Yeah.
But what happened was Darth Bane took his apprentice, and she ended up killing him. What was her name? Oh God, hold on. It'll come to me. Xana. I think it was Xana.
Yeah.
But he ended up dueling her, and when she beat him, and he was like dying, he was actually kind of like happy about it. So this is what I mean by the complexity of the the Sith, right? Because you would think if you hold the power, right, and you're about to die, you wouldn't be happy about that. Like, you would be pissed or sad, whatever. But Bane kind of knew that his idea was working. You know what I mean? Like, he held the power and he made his apprentice strong enough, and she worked to be strong enough to overtake him. So in a sense, it was like a sense of self-satisfaction, I think. And also, what was cool about him is, and I don't know how many people know this, but like the whole coup that Darth Sidious, the Emperor, pulled in Star Wars, infiltrating the Senate and destroying the Jedi from within, that was Darth Bane's plan.
Oh,
yeah. He was the one who had an idea, was to infiltrate from the inside and destroy the reputation of the Jedi, and then take over. So his plan basically took fruition like 1,000 years later.
Wow.
Then you've got Darth Revan, who started out as a Jedi and was very like lauded for his skill, the power of the level of his force powers, you know, and his friend Malik, and they ended up doing things a little questionable for the Jedi. This is again what I'm, you know, because the Jedi are against, like, you know, any kind of dark side tactics, so to speak.
Yeah.
And Revan and Malik kind of liked to use some of these. They went into these areas, you know what I mean? Like, their tactics were a little more brutal, but they got the job done. And to the fact that they were in the Great Mandalorian War, and Revan beat the leader in combat and became like this great hero. And then him and Malik ended up basically going off together and forming this new like Sith Empire. And it was going pretty well for them. And then they ended up basically getting in a fight with the Jedi. The Jedi captured him, and they basically what was her name? Was it Battiitis? It was Battiitis. But Bastille was her name. Yeah. So she ended up deciding, because they were judging him, you know, what to do with him because he's a traitor. She wiped his mind so that. Yeah, like she wiped his mind so that he didn't know he was a Sith or anything like that, and trained him to be a Jedi again. So he ended up going after Vidyade with an old apprentice of his or whatever, and another Sith Lord called Scourge, who basically, right when he was about to take out Vidyade, Scourge betrayed him, and this whole thing went to crap. Yeah. But his anger was such that even when he died, his consciousness lived on in two halves. Basically, it was like you had the dark side and the light side, and the light side basically took root in Vidyade's consciousness for over 300 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a very long time, and without a body, no less. You know, like you're basically you're living rent free in someone else's head and consciousness. I mean, that's got to be freaky. So he kept him from basically wiping out the Jedi many, many times. He kind of stayed his hand. But his whole thing was he wanted Vidyade, he wanted to like strike the final blow against them. And it ended up, he didn't do it, you know. He wanted to, but he didn't. He didn't have a body himself. And eventually, like, the light and the dark side merged, and he had like a peaceful death. which is, I don't know. I was kind of anticlimactic for such a badass character for me, but like when you look at those two characters, right? Revan was chastised for using emotions or tactics that were effective because they were against the Jedi way. Now, I don't know about you, but if it's a thing where it's like you have to do it my way, or you're just not going to be accepted, that doesn't seem like a good guy kind of thing.
No, that's an ultimatum.
Yeah, it's a very, what is it? Not a patriarchy, a
Oligarchy?
a what?
Oligarchy?
Yeah, it's like it's a dictatorship basically.
Okay.
Like it's very like do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Republic would probably be the best way to look at it, right? A group of individuals make decisions for a lesser group of individuals, but part of the same thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So whereas the Sith now, okay, they want to kind of dominate. They do. So that in itself is bad. But at the same time, when you look at when Sidious was in the Senate, like they were kind of at peace.
Yeah.
Like the whole Galactic Republic and everything, like people were doing good. Now, yeah, once they made their move to wipe out the Jedi, it started a whole big war.
Yeah.
But like my thing is, what happens if the Jedi kind of say, you know what, we're not going to try and like take you out of power or whatever. We're going to step aside. We're going to watch you. We're going to see how you do. And if you step out of line or like you do anything that hurts the people, we're going to step in. What happens if they do that, right?
Yeah.
And they don't actually have this big war where millions of people and aliens and whatnot die?
What, like you look at it and you watch the movies and everything, but if you look at that, technically the Jedi are the ones staging the coup. Because, I mean, Chancellor Palpatine rose to power through legitimate means. He did it the way that the government there would have handled things, so he became powerful through that. And the Jedi decided, no, we don't like this. We feel like you did it in the wrong way. We're going to come cut you down. Right.
And, like, even if you look back to when Anakin and Obi-Wan had that epic fight on Mustafar, he said, the Sith are evil. And then Anakin replied with, I think the Jedi are evil. And Obi-Wan said, well, then you are lost. But it kind of speaks to the fact that Anakin at no point in time was ever, in his mind, acting against the side of good. And like, Sidious, okay, I don't think there was any good in him.
Yeah, no.
Like that man was just born evil to like reap souls. And but like, I don't think Bane was evil. I don't think Revan was evil. Anakin sure as hell wasn't evil. There's a lot of Sith Lords, yes, that were, but there were a lot that weren't. They just didn't agree with the Jedi and their methods, so they deviated. And then were declared evil by the Jedi. So, in that regard, this is why I'm a huge fan of the gray Jedi, because they got the best of both worlds. Like they, But I'm when you look at the complexity of like, say, Anakin, right? Like, this man, he was the chosen one. He was taken from his mother at a very early age, pretty much against his will. Yeah. I mean, you could tell he didn't want to go with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, but like the mother kind of made him.
Yeah.
Now, how old was he at the time? Maybe 7, 8?
Yeah, like 8. I think 8.
Yeah. So now, as an 8-year-old, right? You're told you're going to bring balance to the Force. You're the chosen one. He's got all. He's no longer with his mother, the only family he's ever known. He's away from his planet, and now he's being told, well, you've got this huge responsibility on your shoulders. So he's basically dealing with this up until, however old he was when he met Padme. I don't know if he was supposed to be in his teens or in his 20s. He kind of acted like a whiny teenager, but I digress. But like in that time period, he met someone that kind of alleviated that pressure. He had a new focus. He's had something that made him happy, which was Padme.
Yeah.
And as soon as he brought it up to his mentor, the one person he trusts and looked up to and everything, what did he do? He said it's forbidden.
Yeah, can't do that.
Can't do it. Can't love someone. Now, imagine being told after falling in love with someone, right, that you're not allowed to love them. So now he's got to try and bury this down, which, of course, when you try and bury any kind of feeling into like the pit of your stomach, what ends up eventually happening is it comes out all at once, like a bomb explosion, right?
Yeah.
So he's putting down these feelings for Padme, and eventually it's just like, wait a minute. Okay, like, why is this wrong? While he's thinking about this, he gets word his mother, the person who raised him, that he lived like his first 8 years, whatever it is, with, was being held by sand people, whatever. So now it becomes he wants to save her, which, if I remember right, they were against that too. Like, no, just don't go do it, like whatever. And he basically said, F you, that's my mom. So he went to where he was supposed to be held, and sees her not only captive, but clearly tortured.
Yeah. And
she dies in his arms. Now, I think anyone listening right now, if you're, the person who raised you, died in your arms because of people like treating her like crap,
torture.
Torture, slave, basically using her like a slave, like, you're going to be angry. But he was forcing down the anger and all the other emotions that he had been feeling about everything over the years. He'd been forcing it down, and now it had nowhere to go. So it just exploded, and he kills everyone. And that, because he was suppressing it, like the Jedi teach you, it came out in a murderous intent, and it wasn't a healthy expression of anger by any means whatsoever. And he just wipes out that entire sand person village, even the children. And that's kind of when the Emperor saw his opening and was like, look, you're allowed to feel. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to love. Like, this is the way of the Sith. And you can protect the ones you love so that this never happens again. All you've got to do is work with me. So when you hear that, wait, I don't have to like repress anything. I don't have to like bury anything. I can feel what I want to feel. I can protect those I care about. Whereas the Jedi would say you're not allowed to feel anything, and you're not allowed to really protect those if it goes against the code. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would jump at the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that sounds
100%.
pretty good to me. And so he did what he had to do. Now, again, there are instances that you can say, well, wait a second. If they're not all like evil, why did he kill the younglings? And that part, like, there's extremes to everything, right?
Yeah.
There's good and bad extremes. Obviously, that was a bad extreme. Maybe in his head, he was thinking, I'm going to keep these guys from growing up to, like, hurt anyone the way I was hurt by them. I don't know. But obviously, like, there's going to be, good and bad extremes with anything. So that happens. And then during the battle with Obi-Wan and everything, like, Padme has the weirdest death of all time.
Yeah.
Where I guess she dies of heartbreak. I don't know. It was really dumb. And that's when we got the infamous no.
Yeah.
So, and his anger literally, like, crushed everything around him, made the entire environment shake. Again, because he was suppressing it for all those years, and then it came out in a very unhealthy way. So from then on, he kind of became a puppet.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if you have a bad teacher with anything in life, you're going to do bad things that they teach you. And that's when he met Luke. And Luke kind of got him back in touch with, who he was. But if you think about it, right, even when he came back to his senses, he kind of still did a Sith thing when he killed the Emperor.
Yeah.
Like, he could have at that point, he probably could have disabled him. He probably could have, like, done something with the lightsaber to, like, incapacitate him or maim him, whatever. Instead, he threw him in a damn reactor. Like, he was like, he yeeted him.
Yeah.
And like, that supposedly got him back on the ways of, like, the good, which I don't know, that was a little iffy to me, but like, there's just a lot more complexity to me in the Sith, in the fact of, when you look at guys like Obi-Wan, he's very one note. Like he said to Anakin at one point, "You were my brother. I loved you." But at the same time, he was preaching along with the other Jedi Council members, like, you're not supposed to love anyone. So
that's weird too, because Obi-Wan had his side pieces, like, throughout the stories. So he had to know what he was feeling, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing. Okay, the Jedi are supposed to be these good. They're supposed to be these guides almost, and teach you the right path. And if he had these, like you said, the side pieces, why wouldn't he go to bat for him? Why wouldn't he go and, like, say to, like, Mace Windu and Yoda, like, hey, wait a second, y'all trust me? Like, I've been doing a pretty damn good job for you, right? Like, I think I've been, like, the most effective Jedi here, because while you guys are sitting in your easy chairs doing nothing, I'm off fighting battles.
And, like, General Grievous.
Yeah, saving the Republic. Like, and I'm feeling things, and look, it's good. But he didn't do that. Instead, he fell in line like a good little drone. Because that's what the Jedi are taught to do. It's like, did you ever see the movie A Few Good Men?
Yeah.
Remember the scene where he said, no, you said, my men follow orders, they follow orders, or we die. Like, that's kind of what the Jedi do. Like, they follow orders, or that's it. Like, they either die or they're kicked out of the Jedi. Whereas with the Sith, it's like, look, do whatever you want, and if you want, you can even come kill me
Yeah.
and like try and become stronger. If you don't like what I'm doing, if you don't like the way I run things, you know what? Get strong enough to take me down and do it your way. I'm okay with that. Like,
Power gained through power. It's pretty good deal. Not bad. I can
yeah, I
stand
mean,
behind it.
yeah. So like, um, I don't think what's her name that killed Bane ever did anything like of note, but like still, if Anakin had ended up living right after taking down the Emperor, who's to say he would have fallen right back into the Jedi doctrine?
Yeah.
You know, he probably would have stayed doing things kind of Sith-like, but doing it, you know, in a more acceptable kind of manner. That probably would have been the first Grey Jedi, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think.
Actually tell that. So there's a lot of, when you look at throughout the kind of history of the Sith and everything like that, it is always the apprentice takes them down. Even if you go through, I mean, of course you're going to have your exceptions, but do you think that kind of relationship and everything is kind of what, I won't say like harmed the Sith or kept the Sith from like truly getting power, but as you said, like they had to make the rule too because there's infighting. Well, when you make it just you and your apprentice, there's always going to be that infighting once the apprentice reaches for power. You think that's something that they thought about, or?
I think they thought about it to a degree. If I had to guess, because like, if really every time someone reached for the power, like you said, it wasn't like I failed and now we're gonna like argue amongst each other or whatever. Usually what would end up happening is either the apprentice would die and get replaced, they would kill the leader and take their place, or they would fail, not die, and then they would say, you know, you're not strong enough yet, get stronger. Like, if you're going to do this, do it right. Almost like continuing to motivate them, you know, to keep getting stronger. I'm almost positive actually that Bane's apprentice failed a couple of times before she succeeded. And then they had that big duel where, you know, he did in fact succeed, and again he kind of had like this. He wasn't mad about it.
No.
Um,
I mean, it is good, especially because you talked about, you know, a way for the Sith to regain their power because they had grown weak and everything. I mean, what a better way to gain power than, hey, I'm the most powerful Sith there is. Get strong enough to beat.
Right, because what they had become basically was fat and lazy.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have anything to aspire to. They were just an army of dark force users, and no one really strived to like get stronger. So when the Jedi came into town, they just got walloped. I mean, just from pillar to post, just smacked around. It was bad, and if it wasn't for Darth Bane recognizing this and taking action, the Sith would have been, like, there's no doubt, the Sith would have been wiped out for good by the Jedi. There wouldn't be any Sith to fight, like, down the line. Like, there'd be no Darth Vader to be recruited by Sidious. It just would have been the Jedi, and that's it.
Yeah,
like,
Jedi and bros.
Yeah, and that's a scary thought too, because when you think about everything they preach, they probably would have created a quote unquote utopia, at least in their mind, of people who just didn't feel emotions, and didn't really have any kind of feeling inside, which is just, you're not living if you're not feeling, you're just existing.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of got like two pieces of it. So if you really watch the movies 1 through 3, not the old 1 through 3, the chronological 1 through 3,
Right.
If you really watch it and kind of understand what's going on and watch the Jedi, I mean, a lot of the movie, as we kind of mentioned to earlier, it makes those Jedis do come off as not necessarily the good guys, the bad guys. They come off as kind of heartless and uncaring, and it's my way or the highway type things. But you're again, they talk about dealing in absolutes, and there are some absolutes. So if you really watch that coming out of the thought process, because we're so trained to say, hey, these are the good guys and bad guys, but the whole story of Star Wars is who do we know is the good guy? We may never know for a long time to come because they're making decisions for them, and the Sith motives and their intentions and stuff like that, it differs from Sith Lord to Sith Lord.
It does. Yeah, and that's why, in a way, I respect the Sith a little more than the Jedi, because they're leaving room for improvement. Like, they're not. I don't think in their mind going, well, we're gonna do so much good with this system. I don't think they're thinking about that at all. But like, by doing it, like, hey, if you can overthrow me, like, you're leaving it open for them to do things however they want to do it. So if Anakin had overthrown Sidious, right, or even Luke, remember he was trying to turn Luke to the dark side. He said, "Strike down your father, take your place by my side." So like, if either of them had done that, and killed the Emperor, I don't think either of them would have been malicious. I don't think they would have been out like killing people left and right. I don't think they would have like been after world domination. I think they would have tried to find a path to peace that was their path and not the Jedi's. Whether or not it would have been a good path is, up for debate and assumption, but I don't think it would have been a necessarily evil path.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing that I got, like, to touch on is you talked about the Jedi versus Sith war, and we have, of course, Disney now owns the rights to Star Wars and everything else to that effect there. Were there anything really cool that happened during these wars? And I guess I remember watching some CG cutscenes for the Star Wars MMO, and my assumption is that MMO takes place during the Sith and Jedi wars, and the battles are sweet, and like the CG is really awesome. Do you think there's a chance that we revert to that time and kind of they build on that time in the Star Wars community, or do you think we're going to move forward with the Rey storyline? And, the absolution of the Jedi and the Sith Council, and we just start growing with Sith, or not Sith, sense-forsitive people, or force-sensitive.
So it's funny you bring that up, actually, but both of those things have been confirmed. So they're going to continue the story of Rey in a series where basically the entire thing is going to be done like the cutscenes. It's going to be modeled after the actors and everything. It's going to look like those cutscenes that you're talking about, and it's going to continue the story of Rey and how basically, I guess, what's his name, Kylo, or Ben Solo, is actually his consciousness is being shared with her.
Okay.
So he's like still alive, kind of, and sharing like a consciousness with her. And they're actually going to do like a movie of like the Old Republic, from what I've been reading, which is awesome. Which means that we're going to get to see most likely these massive battles, because that's what they were. There's one in particular, one scene that I can remember from that game where the Jedi, it's just an army of Jedi, right? and they're standing there at this battleship, and then the I don't know, drawbridge or whatever you want to call it, but like the ramp lowers on the ship, and you see nothing but darkness, and then you see just hundreds of red lightsabers light up, and the next thing you know, they're flying out, and there's just this big battle between all these Sith and all these, Jedi. And it was cool to see, in a game and all, but like, I think back to episode 2, that fight in the Colosseum between the Jedi and like the what were they? The
mantis things.
Yeah, the mantis things and those robots, the precursors to the stormtroopers.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, like I remember how massive that felt and how epic that battle was. And I think now, with the technology even farther along by leaps and bounds from when that came out, you could have these battles and just really make them such grand, epic scale. I can't wait. I'm also one of the few people who loves the character of Rey. A lot of people like.
Oh, I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, because I don't see why people hate her. I think she's kind of, in a way, the first great Jedi, if you think about it. At least in like a medium, like a film, TV medium. She did use dark powers. Like, she used Force lightning. That is not a Jedi power.
Yeah.
A Jedi cannot use Force lightning. You have to have some semblance of the dark side of the Force in you to do so. And she did. So and then the fact that she like was able to take down the Emperor and all the Jedi were with her, it kind of shows like this balance,
a shift.
Where she's balancing the light and the dark perfectly, and I hope they expand upon that. She had the yellow lightsaber at the end, which is a symbol for Jedi of being a guardian. You only get to have a yellow lightsaber if you're a Jedi Guardian, which is like a very exclusive kind of tier. But basically, like, they're like the Guardians of the Force. So, I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think she's kind of a complex tech character too, which is different because Jedi haven't been very complex. I mean, Luke was a one-note whiner.
Yeah. People do not like to hear that, but it's true. But
it is. I mean, right back to the original, like, in Peru, I want to go shoot wombats. You're not my father. Impossible. Like, he was always been whining. And you have Obi-Wan, who, so like, he's kind of like a sage old teacher, but like, he's failed at every turn. Everything he's ever done, he's failed at. He's always been a follower and a teacher, but never like expanded either, like past either role. You know what I mean? He's never shown any depth as a character. I think the most I've ever felt from him in terms of depth was when he ends up killing Darth Maul right before he like meets Luke, because Maul was basically like, look, just kill me, you're way above me right now, and I want to kill like Anakin and the Emperor, and I'm not gonna be able to do it, and like there's no place for me, I can't be a Jedi, I can't be a Sith, like just end it. And he did. And like it kind of takes some like a little bit of layers, I think, as a person to be able to willingly murder someone that is asking you to like do so.
And I mean, his story being intertwined with Darth Maul. Darth Maul has a very interesting story of, death, bringing back going insane, being a robot,
Yeah.
like all the stuff going on with him. So I think again that gives some credence to Obi-Wan. And I mean, you look back and there's a lot of amazing characters throughout the Star Wars series. But as you said, Obi-Wan does seem to fall into that follower role, just does as he's told, blind trust in the Force. Or not the Force, blind trust in the Jedi and their way.
Yeah. And I think you were right also when you said the Force, because he's always been like, be one with the Force, the Force will guide you, trust in the Force. Which I guess in a way he was right. I mean, it did guide Luke to be able to like destroy the Death Star. That was all Obi-Wan telling him and guiding him and teaching him. But like, where was the Force when you basically let Darth Vader kill you? Yeah. Where was the Force when you were fighting Darth Maul with Qui-Gon and you watched him die because you basically got your butt handed to you? Like, I don't know. He's just very one note to me. I think Yoda, at least, kind of had this. I almost feel like Yoda, if he had been pushed too far, might have gone dark side. I know that might raise a few eyebrows, but like, he seems like he gets it. Like, he understands that sometimes feelings they need to be felt. But at the same time, he was diehard Jedi. Like, everything was the way of the Jedi, and so he never stepped over that line. But I don't know, I always kind of thought that if Yoda had the chance, if he was really like pushed by someone, like maybe if someone was about to murder Luke in front of him or something, I don't know, I think he would have went dark side a little bit.
That's a good possibility. You never know, but that is a story that
Oh yeah. Well, it's not really a story, just more like a theory.
A thought process. And we do deal in theories here on NerdLore. So, Blue, thank you for coming on. If any of the listeners want to find you, if they want to contact you, how can they do so?
Well, on Twitter, it's BigBlueD 79. The number, not the letters. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/BigBlueD. No spaces, just all one thing, BigBlueD. And you can find me on YouTube at Out of the Blue, which is spaces between each word.
So, enjoyed having you on. It was awesome. Maybe as your wrap up, what is your favorite scene in all 9 of the movies?
All 9 of the movies? Okay, so that has to be, without a doubt, when Yoda comes like all slowly walking on his cane after, Dooku put down Obi-Wan and Anakin, and out of nowhere, after he draws his lightsaber, it just starts flipping around and going ape shit. Like, I love that scene, and I never wanted it to end, because we finally got to see the greatest Jedi of all time, like,
get wild,
actually fight. Yeah, and like, yeah, I gotta go with that. I gotta go with that.
That is a good one. I think what still gets me is episode 9. Haven't watched episode 9. This is the time to stop listening. But episode 9, very end, when they're on the planet fighting all the other ships, and they're like, you know what, we've lost, and out of nowhere, all the other ships start coming in, like, one at a time. That felt really good. I remember thinking in theaters, and I was like, oh, I got chills right now.
Same. And what's cool is if you pause that scene and really look, you'll see ships from like TV series, like Rebels and things. You'll see like all kinds. Wedge was there in a ship. Like there's all these different ships from all the movies and TV shows that are like Easter eggs in that scene that makes it that much better.
That's so amazing. Well, thank you, Blue. This has been the NerdLore podcast. Thank you, guys. We will be back with another episode next week.